I just posted these to the internet the other day, and I got an immediate response. Seems these are photographs of Mississauga's very first girls' hockey team, circa 1965-66, Arundel. That's me. And that's me right here, playing right wing to Mabel Boyd on left. And reaching further back, that's me and my grandfather beside the Miles Lane Bridge over the Cooksville Creek, circa 1953, before Hurricane Hazel came and washed the entire bridge out. So why do I show this? Photographs speak to history. As for video, that's how history speaks. The video clips span from May 2008, when Councillor Mullen first suggested an ombudsman to address public complaints against city staff, to the April 16, 2012 Governance Committee meeting discussions. Listen carefully and see if you can recognize the most important comment ever made by a City of Mississauga elected official regarding authentic accountability. Meaning, if you were to take this video and cut it into a 1-minute clip, what would be the all-important take-home message? And that's a challenge for you. See if you can recognize real. This is the one.
Councillor Mullen.
Yes, I read R4, and I guess my question, and this is regarding the whole complaints issue with regards to Don Barbara at the council meetings. And there is an addition to this which talks about the possibility of an investigator. And I guess my concern with that would be, well, first and foremost, the cost is relatively significant. And how many times would an investigator have to come forward to take a look at complaints? So I guess I'm looking for some direction from possibly staff, if there is something that we could put in place, which would be, I guess, a complaint procedure against staff, and maybe somebody could respond, or if there's another way in terms of looking at it. Talk to Mary Ellen Bench about it, and I mean, I'm wondering if there is something like maybe the ombudsman that could take a look at something like this. It just seems to me that it may be an ongoing scenario and a continuation, and never a satisfaction at the end of the day, that we would be just putting more and more money into this.
And then May 2010, me, unprepared, incoherent, and ineffective in front of Mississauga General Committee.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Councillor Adams and Council. I came here to discuss the minutes of meetings, and then walked in and saw this one here, if I could have this on, the Code of Conduct for Mayor and members of Council for Integrity Commissioner, and I consider that way more important than anything I got to say about minutes. So I kind of regret that I didn't know about this. But you can't just switch, can you?
It actually is on the agenda, so you can speak to it.
Yeah, but I'm not good on my feet. I need to prepare ahead of time. I'm not swift. But I was hoping that this is really important. If people remember, it was Councillor Mullen who had said that there were issues that were chronically coming up regarding, and she was mentioning Donald Barber as an example, and she had recommended that, you know, once and for all to deal with it. And this is how I think the idea of the Integrity Commissioner came up. And I also recall I had urged I think Councillor Sato was going to lead the charge on this, and I asked her to, say, invite the Ontario Ombudsman in to address Council, to give them some idea as to how to set up an Integrity Commissioner. This is, you know, I've been observing Council since June 14th, 2006, and I'm talking about audio tape, videotape, and stuff like that. This has got to be the most important corporate report and direction, certainly from the view of treatment of citizens and ethical infrastructure. And yet, this thing did not go through audit committee, for example. It just kind of showed up here, and staff is recommending that you accept it. There's not any possibility even for public input. I don't even know if it's been run through public. And you know, I would think that first you check to see the validity of the public complaints system that you already have in place, the one for corporate security and the generic ones, and whether those are being handled properly. Because if they're not, and I'm saying they're not, and I've got freedom of information saying it, so, you know, the fact that, well, okay, it's not a fact because it's based on evidence, but it's sort of ultimately my conclusions, and somebody else may look at the evidence and see it differently. But for me, I question any integrity commissioner that may, or a process here, because I just don't see the ethical infrastructure in place to support something like that. Hey, Mayor McCallion was giving an address at UTM last week, and I was there, and she was talking about public input and the importance of it. And this just came up. It could be rubber stamped today, and that's it. So I would hope that council might look at this and say, you know, this is really important. Let's put some, let the public look at this and talk about it. Anyway, I'm hoping that I'll be preparing for this at council, because I'm very scattered and sometimes I'm sorry.
And that was May 21st, 2008, and that issue still hasn't been addressed. It hasn't. And while there's now an integrity commissioner in place to file complaints against elected officials, there still is no consistent person, ombudsman or integrity commissioner or otherwise, to deal with complaints against city staff. And that includes everything right up to the commissioners and the city manager. So it's interesting to look at the May 21st, 2008 video and see that. And that's the other thing I would request, is for the Governance Committee to perhaps consider expanding the mandate of the Integrity Commissioner to also include complaints against city staff. Thanks.
With the hiring of the Integrity Commissioner, and the anticipation is that this person would be hopefully here by the end of June, and then in the fall, this committee would sit down with the Integrity Commissioner and work on the amendments to the Code of Conduct with that person being here to work on it with us. So there is an opportunity for some of the concerns that you have raised to be reviewed during that process. They may not all be addressed because I don't agree that the Integrity Commissioner that we are looking at to deal with the Code of Conduct and the application of the Code of Conduct, that is for members of council. I don't agree that that person should be handling complaints about all city staff. That is a staff responsibility. It's a senior staff commissioner, director level responsibility, or city manager level responsibility. Now, having said that, Councillor Carlson and I were just talking about it there, and there may be some validity in taking a look at the Integrity Commissioner dealing with complaints on the senior staff, the Commissioner's city manager level. But at this point, I don't think either of us are, you know, that's just something that was thrown out in discussion. Whether that would happen, whether we would think it's a good idea after we've sat down and talked about it or not, I don't know. But as far as staff below that level, that is dealt with by senior staff. That is their responsibility.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
But anyway,
Thank you.
gee, we agree on something. Yes.
Well, I have a question about what you
No, it is
said,
after.
Councillor Sato. At the beginning, you said that you weren't sure about that number 2 thing where upon...
I just wasn't sure where it was from that you were...
It's under Rule 12.
That was under Rule 12.
Rule 12 deals with the respectful workplace policy,
Okay.
and that is provision 2 under Rule 12. So anything that the Integrity Commissioner receives a complaint and he feels that it deals with the respectful workplace policy, then he can't investigate
Then
it.
it's
He must
referred.
hand it to Human Resources.
Okay, thank you. I had just lost the context on it, so I appreciate that.
And that's what I'd like you to fix, please. Thank you.
Okay, just hang on a second or so.
I think Councillor Sato's point, I think for all of us when we're looking at this review of governance, her point about you get out of it what you put into it is really important in terms of understanding the process of when a complaint is made, whether it be internally amongst councillors, which we've had discussion about, whether it be from a member of the public towards one of the council members, or from a member of public towards staff. But Councillor Sato and Councillor Carson, Councillor Sato, you spoke for Councillor Carson, I guess, in saying that you'd be willing to look at if there's a way that we can look at including, perhaps, I don't know, we would have to have more discussion around the leadership team, but I think for all of us, including leadership team and council, we're committed to this governance committee specifically because we want to make sure that moving forward for the city of Mississauga that we have a transparent and clear path when it comes to a complaint process, a code of conduct, and also in terms of an independent person who is working to analyze or review that whole process. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So what's that all-important take-home message?
I think Councillor Sato's point, I think for all of us when we're looking at this review of governance, her point about you get out of it what you put into it is really important in terms of understanding the process of when a complaint is made, whether it be internally amongst councillors, but whether it be from a member of the public towards one of the council members, or from a member of public towards staff.
You know, I would think that first you check to see the validity of the public complaints system that you already have in place.
And because you can't say this often enough,
What you get out of it, what you put into it, is really important in terms of understanding the process of when a complaint is made, whether it be internally amongst councillors, but whether it be from a member of the public towards one of the council members, or from a member of public towards staff.
You know, I would think that first you check to see the validity of the public complaints system that you already have in place.